On this channel, I like to talk a little bit about the software businesses that I am running, and it's nearing the end of the year. I thought it might be cool to talk about one of them that I haven't talked about much, and it's called MyPlots. If you're unaware, I run two main software businesses, one being 2Man, the second one being MyPlots. In the past few videos, I've been talking about 2Man and the trials and tribulations that I've had with the Apple App Store and finally getting that approved. But today we're going to be talking about MyPlots and some of the numbers to go along with it. I'm not making this video to flex on anyone or sell you a product. As you'll see, these numbers are not all sunshine and rainbows, but I thought this video might be cool. Maybe some people will find it interesting and maybe others will be inspired by it. First off, what is MyPlots? Well, MyPlots is an event ticketing platform targeted specifically at Gen Z. And what that entails is basically targeting our users in the age range from 16 to 26. When you think of an event ticketing platform, you probably think of one of the bigger ones, like Eventbrite or Ticketmaster. And while these solutions are tried and true, they have reached a scale where they are so large and focus on such big events that they forget about the little guys. When I'm talking about the little guys, I am referring to people who may want to host a house party and charge for tickets, or somebody who may want to have a small gathering and have people RSVP, or even bars or small clubs that may want to sell tickets as well. And we target those groups by making it dead simple to host events. And now, based off the title, I'm sure you're wondering about numbers, so we'll get into that. I'll start by explaining how MyPlots actually makes money. MyPlots is a free-to-use platform. We don't charge hosts anything for hosting parties. And the way we make money is by adding processing fees on top of ticket costs. Now keep in mind, you can have free tickets on the platform, and this usually takes the form of an RSVP. But when there is a paid ticket, we normally add a processing fee of $1 plus 10% of the transaction cost on top. This fee is pretty in line with the industry standards and is very common among our competitors. Now let's take a look at some of the numbers. As I'm recording this video, MyPlots has processed $269,918.16. Now it's a pretty big number, and it's a pretty solid achievement, and it shows that MyPlots has at least a little bit of traction. And yes, this number is technically revenue, but we will get into a little bit more of the breakdown now. To do that, let's take a look at first how the relationship between hosts and end customers works. So MyPlots really works as an intermediary. We sit in between the host and the end customer. A host will come to our platform and say, hey, we want to host an event. That event gets published to our website and mobile app where people can see it and buy tickets. People buy tickets through us, and we process all of the payments through Stripe. And once a payment is processed, we send the amount minus our processing fee to the host. So while yes, that revenue number is decently large, most of that money we do not get to keep for ourselves. We'll also take a little bit of a deeper look looking at these graphs. And as you can see, the income is not particularly consistent. You can see that there's two pretty large spikes. And what those spikes are seasonal periods when a lot of people are hosting events. This first spike right here is going to be during the prom season for high school students. And essentially a lot of high schoolers end up going to after proms, and these after proms are usually not affiliated with their school, so they will charge money for these tickets. This second spike right here is going to be over Halloween being one of the busiest times for events, and we were able to secure some pretty lucrative hosts for that weekend. So as you can see, again, yes, that number is pretty large, but it relies on seasonal spikes to really get that high. So now we're going to move on to the next point, which is actually expenses, just like any business would have. And we already talked about one of those big ones, which is paying out those hosts for their event tickets. And that is going to be the biggest chunk of change right there. I'm not going to go too far into the tiny breakdowns of the costs, but I'll just lay the rest of them out for you. So the next biggest cost after that one is going to be exclusive hosting deals. This is a pretty standard thing in the event ticketing space. Event ticketing platforms will sign deals with specific venues or specific hosts so that all of their ticket sales have to go through that platform. And we currently have a few hosts that we do these exclusive deals with, and that's what really brings a lot of the ticket sales and traffic to MyPlots. Now, as we get closer to what the net profits actually are, the next big thing will be hosting costs. MyPlots, being an event ticketing platform where communicating information is really important, we use a few different tools to make sure that happens. So we host everything on a VPS that includes the front end, the back end, Redis, and a database. We have that stuck behind Cloudflare, which is free for us right now. And it really helps us to keep those costs down since a lot of front end requests will be cached. So that VPS really just costs us under $10 a month. And it's been able to handle a decent amount of traffic. Over the past 3 months, we've seen 15,000 unique visitors. So it's doing just fine. And then we have the biggest hosting cost, which is going to be AWS. The way we communicate with users regarding tickets and updates and marketing is using AWS end user messaging. End user messaging used to be called Pinpoint, now it's called end user messaging, and that's basically how we send most of our SMS messages. Then we're going to have AWS SES for sending emails, and emails just really work as a backup just in case SMS throughput is not working very well. I also forgot to mention, but we host all of our images on Cloudflare R2 instead of AWS S3. I think it just definitely proves cheaper compared to AWS. Lastly, we have Twilio, and we use Twilio for sending the verify SMS codes. Realistically, we could do away with Twilio and just use AWS end user messaging, but that'll be a refactor for a later date. Now I want to put this all into perspective, so we'll take a look at the graphs again. So as you can see, the gross volume is going to be $271,000 and $4,000, and that's going to be the gross revenue, including refunds. And then in that second graph, we're going to have the net volume from sales. That's going to be the MyPlots income after paying out those event hosts. And you can see that's $16,812.73. Then roughly estimating all of the expenses that I talked about earlier, the net profit is just around $6,000 for this year. So at this point, I'm sure it's pretty apparent why I said earlier that the numbers are not all sunshine and rainbows, because the real outlook is so much lower. Some things that might also be worth noting is I've been working on MyPlots for about 1.5 years now. Started out under a different name, but it was launched earlier this year in February. And then about 3 months ago, I did a complete refactor of both the front end and the back end. So that's just to say there has been a lot of work put into this platform. There's so many more things to talk about when it comes to MyPlots, like on the technical side and the business side, but that's a video for another day.